Welcome to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright. This show is all about honoring you as a spiritual being, having a human experience. You are here for a reason, and it's no mistake that you are here on earth right now. Spirit has guided you to this very moment in time, so you could hear the messages Pam is about to share with you. She is a multidimensional healer, light language channel, transformation coach, wife and mother, committed to helping you discover the tools and practices to empower you to live the best life you can. You get to choose the spirit path you take. You can connect to the spiritual guidance already all around you. Get ready to live a fully empowered life. This is the Empower Me Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright. I am here with my dear friend and really the glue that keeps all of Transformation Talk Radio together, Jesica Henderson. Thank you so much for being here. And we are going to talk about life in the world of Transformation Talk Radio, but also individually with Jesica and also with Pam. We're going to look at spirituality and how that is the cornerstone of our lives individually and collectively on the planet, as well as talking about how does grief fit into all of the things that we do in our daily lives, because, you know, grief exists in the world as its own energy. And sometimes it drives us into making decisions and into taking actions that we wouldn't normally take on a regular basis. So all of those things we're going to talk about today, but really it's all about you, the listener and the watcher, to really look at what empowers you, what turns you on, what excites you about your life in 2022. So before we get launching into that, it always helps me to ground myself and to center into this moment, because there's all kinds of distractions that happen on a regular basis in our lives. And for me, especially, life is very busy. And so it really helps me to just center in on what is the most important thing right now, which is you who are watching this particular episode of Transformation Talk Radio. So let's go ahead and do that. And if you are in a place where you need to pay attention to your life and what's going on around you, then absolutely stay focused on that, but listen to my voice as a way to connect to the essence of who you are as a soul. So if you can, if you're in a position to close your eyes, that really helps to just focus in on your inner self. And with your intentional breath, take a deep breath from the very bottoms of your feet, like you're going to connect to the earth through the bottoms of your feet, going all the way down into the middle of her. Okay. So down, 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 down into the Earth Mother's core, and ask her to assist with bringing that energy up into your body system so that you can connect with who you are. And then with a nice sound and breath out, ooh, that helps to really anchor in the breath into your body and then out into the world. So, ooh. Ooh. And if you're a little timid and shy about making a sound on the air, then go ahead and just do that in your head and out in your space by yourself. Ooh. And I'm just going to say a little prayer and a little light language for us to bring all of that into this moment. Creator of all that is, the one who lives and breathes within all things, we thank you for our lives, and we thank you for this amazing day. And we thank you that we can connect to you, the one who lives and breathes within all things, including our own selves, at any time we wish. We can call you Gaia, we can call you Creator, we can call you Universal Force, we can call you Jesus or Buddha, Yahweh, we can call you nature. Doesn't matter what we call you as long as we connect to that essence that is bigger than our physical selves as human beings. Because when we do that, we connect to all beings on this planet and beyond. And we ask now that our energy systems reach out and connect to all essences, all energies that are of you, of the light, of source. Henana keda heda yetua la yewa. Heruara na neada yetua de harawea. Adawea ada yehia nahi. We now ask that the wolf, the beautiful wolf that's behind me, come in fully and completely in this space. The wolf is known as the teacher. And so we ask the teacher to come in now and give us all of the wisdom that is necessary for this time together so that we may empower ourselves in our very next step that is appropriate for us individually in this moment. Hala deda he tu na na ye na ye tasaneke. And then with a centered breath, just go ahead and put your hands on your heart and slowly open your eyes and come back. Welcome back. So I do this every time that I have a show, simply to remember the essence of who I am as an individual and as a global leader on this planet, as well as connecting you into your inner core, because I think it's important that we each do that regularly so that we bring the fullness of ourselves as human beings and spiritual beings into one body system. So that is the purpose behind why I do this every time that I have a show. And I invite you to have some kind of a practice that you can also experience what's most important to you as a being of substantial light and energy of source. So welcome, Jesica, to the show. I'm so thrilled that you have chosen to be here with me today. And I would love to know this question, the answer to this question that I ask every single individual that's on my show is, what does it mean to you being a spiritual being having a human experience?
I love this question. And to me, it means a lot of things. I know and believe that it's ever changing and ever evolving and ever growing. And we're here to learn. And maybe that's just my spirit being here at this moment, but I feel like I'm here to learn, because we can sometimes get too caught up in the physical. And I think, I was thinking of this as your intro played and the words that talked about the connection to spirit. And then again, in the prayer you shared, it doesn't matter what you believe, or what you're connected to, but it's the connection that we all need and crave in some way, shape, or form. And so that's what I think we're here to do, is to know that connection and find that for ourselves in each go around in this experience.
I love that. I love that. And I'm reminded of my beautiful crystal that I have here, which is a partnership crystal. And partnership is the word that I took on in 2022. And so with that partnership comes really relief for us as human beings, because so much of the time we think we have to do it alone. We think that we're all isolated. We think it's all up to us individually, right, to do everything. And what I'm learning more and more as I partner with the creator, the divine, is that there is more support for me individually as a human than there ever has been ever in time, I think. But definitely in this lifetime, I'm going to be 60 in May. And I remember how much of my life I spent struggling and really floundering around trying to figure out what in the world life was about and what I was here for and why do I even care, right? There was a lot of that, a lot of questioning. And the more that I commit to 100% connection to source, then the world opens up to me. Like there's massive support everywhere, right? And it's up to us individually to connect, like make a commitment to that. So that is really, I think, what partnership's all about, is the commitment to being willing to be willing, right?
Yes.
And Jacob, we're going to wait on the break because we are on a roll and we're just going to wait until probably halfway to take a break. So I would love to know more from you, Miss Jesica. What is life about today for you individually and also as the glue for Transformation Talk Radio? What is life about today for you?
I might borrow some language from Dr. Pat, and I think this is from the program, but sometimes it feels like it's about the next indicated thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about what, where I am with my life and where I am with the network, they get so intertwined because the network is my life.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's my passion, it's my purpose. So we talk about when you find that, I mean, there's sometimes, you can spend an entire life seeking out this passion and your purpose in the world. And I feel grateful to have found mine. And so each day and each moment is about living in that passion and that purpose and continuing to expand and grow as the network has and as I am as an individual. I mean, I was excited about this show because I feel like it's a powerful topic for a couple of reasons. One, when we talk about connection to spirit and we talk about grieving, because even the topic of grief with the world collective in the last couple of years and what's going on now, but then also as individuals, we all experience loss. And I expect that some part of this episode is going to resonate with everyone everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
because we all experience, that's part going back to that human experience. We all experience some kind of loss or grief at some point in our lives. And I fully expect, because this is where I am in my journey right now, I am expanding and growing and learning. And I'm guessing I'll get some nuggets from you out of this show that I walk away with some more expansion and things to consider and learning that has happened, just like everyone else listening.
Oh, me too. Me too. That's really my joy in being a host of a show on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm so excited and so really honored that I was found. Creator put it into your heart as the amazing glue that you are for the show. I say glue because I don't know what your title is. What is your actual title on Transformation Talk Radio?
I'll have to get back to you on that. Let me ask Dr. Pat.
Okay, well, I think it was Pat actually that said to me, she's the glue that holds everything together for us. And so I just took that on because I know that you wear multiple hats and do multiple things in order for Transformation Talk Radio to exist. And so just so you know, listeners, Jesica actually found me. I did not reach out to Transformation Talk Radio to be a host on this show. She actually found me and said, I think we have a place for you here. And I said, oh, wow, okay, let's go. So, that's how it works when you have a connection to spirit and you dedicate your life to being of service, because I believe that the ultimate adventure is to say yes to your soul's purpose. And so if you were to actually put it into words, what your purpose is on the planet, Jesica, could you actually put it into words? what you believe it is?
I could try. I know this. I know my purpose here is to be a light, and it's to help others heal and help others connect. Uh and the network was part of that purpose because we are about connection, we're about healing, we're about coming together and messages that transform lives. I also realized that in myself personally. That's why I started my show, The Possibility Perspective, because I wanted to bring different perspectives and conversations to the table to help people come together and realize we are more alike than we are different. And so I'm really stepping more fully into that purpose as well. But if I were to summarize it into a few words, it would be to be a grounding and healing light for the world.
Mm. Mm. Whew. Whew. That touches me deeply. That touches me deeply. And we've talked a lot about light, and we've talked about being a bridge, and we've talked about connections. And this feels like a good segue into why we are going to talk about grief today. Jesica and I both have been on an amazing journey with grief in both of our lives individually, and it feels really appropriate to bring this up in this particular show because we are all about empowerment on every level, and empowering ourselves in the midst of vulnerability is really the key of grieving. And what my life is all about is to give you access to how can I be fully myself in every moment of my life, on and off camera. Right? And when Jesica talked about being a light, what I really got for myself is that I am a light. I've known this intellectually, right? Then what happened is it just locked in even deeper in this conversation. And recently, actually it was March 21st at 11 o'clock, my father passed. And we knew this was coming. We knew this was happening. We just didn't know when. And that moment, you can't ever know how you're going to react in that moment, ever. And I had been preparing for this transition previously. We had about 2 months where my father was in the hospital, where he was in and out of different hospitals, and they were trying to figure out how to care for him. And the story isn't necessarily the power of this, but I will tell you that many of us have experienced COVID and COVID symptoms and death from that. And my father had complications with that, ended up in the hospital, had lots of different things along with Alzheimer's. And all of those things together just came to a head. And at 87, he was ready. He was ready, even though he didn't really know how to transition. And the beautiful part of this whole story is that I, as committing to the light that I am, got to be the bridge to show him where to go. And I did not know that this was even a possibility in my life to do. But this is where the power of the commitment to being of service comes in. Because as I've grown in my commitment to be on purpose and living on purpose, I have been shown over and over and over and over again how to live out my purpose on the planet and to share my gifts with the world. And so you, the listener, listening and watching this episode, might get an inkling that this is something that you're interested in as well. So this is your opportunity to take the reins of the commitment and let God do the rest. All right. When we let go of the how and we simply say yes to the calling, then source steps in and gives us all of the opportunity to live out what we're here to do. And that's why Jesica and I are here, is to share our experiences of this journey. So with all of that I just said, Jesica, what comes up for you as I'm talking?
The releasing the how, because that is probably for me one of the biggest struggles I have. My analytical brain takes over, and I am fully committed to being here and, being guided to what I'm supposed to do. But there's also this piece of me that really wants to know every detail and how it's going to happen. And I know better, but I also know that is probably something other people struggle with, is that total surrender. And I think that is where you come all the way back around to that connection and belief in something bigger than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can fully connect into something bigger than yourself, then the how just kind of starts to fall away because you have that unwavering faith.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I agree. And one of the things, and again, I did not plan this, okay? What you're receiving on the air with me now is really channeled. I have an idea, an inkling before I do a show about what I'm going to talk about. And then I let go and I let spirit work through me, okay? So all of my abilities, all of my knowledge, all of the stuff that comes into any show and really into my life in general is because I did this. And I said, okay, God, use me. Okay. There's I think that's a verse in the Bible, make me an instrument of thy peace. Right. And there's a whole host of different sayings in there, but that's the thing that comes through me is make me an instrument. Allow me to be your instrument. Use me in the way that I'm here to be used, right? So in that, I was given this way to connect to spirit and connect to our spiritual guides. Each of us has guides, teachers, and angels that we are with every single day of our lives, okay? And they come and go. Different ones will come in at different times, and I call it spirit team, okay? And as I connect to spirit team, the team that has come to me to be my personal guides as well as my business guides, and there are guides for the show as well, they all work together. And when I let go of the how, at least this is how it works in my life. And I've actually taught other people to do this as well. When I step aside and I say, okay, guides, I need to do this. I need to do the show, and we're going to have this guest on and show us what to do next. Then I'm given information, like on a need to know basis, in order to set up my life. And it works really beautifully, really beautifully. And so if that interests you, let me know, give me a jingle, go on brightbutterflyenterprises.com, whatever, and we can talk more about that. But the point is that spirit will give us exactly what we need in every moment when we let go of the how. Okay. We have a few minutes before we're going to take a break. It feels like what people would like to know about you, Jesica, in case they didn't know, is how do they find you on Transformation Talk Radio with your show that you're doing?
Absolutely. So you can look me up on Transformation Talk Radio and search The Possibility Perspective, or you can Google The Possibility Perspective. You can get to my website from there. All of my podcasts and shows so far are listed on transformationtalkradio.com as well as my website. So feel free to check them out. I've not gotten very far yet. I think I've done, 6 episodes, more to be revealed in the coming months.
Cool. Awesome. 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 So we're going to take a break here in a little bit. As soon as I kind of set it up for the next half of the show. I am opening things up to live calls every show now, just because I really want to connect to you, who's the listener. So if you go to 1-800-930-2819, you can call in and ask us any questions that you have about what we've talked about so far. Anything that you're curious about, any places where you're stuck, any information that you feel like you need right now. This is the place to do that. I talked just a little bit about grief, but I'd love to be an open book with what that looks like, maybe for you individually, as well as what grief as a whole kind of looks like in the world. And what do we do about it? How do we handle it and not be debilitated by it? So when we come back to that and much more, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Empower Me Show. I'm Pam Bright, and this is Jesica Henderson. She is the executive producer of Transformation Talk Radio, and we are talking about our spiritual connection with Source, as well as who we are as individuals and a global community, with our connection to grief, and how does grief affect us in the world. So Jesica, how can we have a really visible presence online and on camera and be in the middle of our grieving process? How does that come across for you, and how do you deal with that?
That's a challenge for me in many ways, and it's a challenge for me. So I'm gonna use an example of people talk about PDA, public displays of affection. I'm also a PDE, public displays of emotion. I have a really hard time with it. Which, if my mom will watch this at some point, and she'll probably laugh, because on the inside, I feel like I don't want to publicly display anger or fear or sadness or grief, or even like huge amounts of joy. I try to kind of keep it dialed in. And I say try because I feel like I'm doing a really good job of it, but it's written all over my face. And actually a real-time example that happened, I was just walking back into this room before the show, and I was deep in thought about grief and about this show and about what might come up. And Jacob looked at me and goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he's like, "You looked really sad." And I was like, "Oh, well, I was very deep in thought, right?" And he's like, "What about?" Because obviously it was just painted all over my face, right?
Mm-hmm.
The level of sadness I was feeling and thinking about grief in general and how we deal with it. And I think in a public forum, I would like to be an advocate for normalizing those feelings. And, I think I guess there's always a gray area, but we can paint a picture of it's not okay to display authentic emotions especially when you're on screen or on camera like this. I remember doing a call with you, and you were giving me some love and some support because me and my husband's family were grieving, and I just started to cry, and I started to apologize for crying. And you said, "Don't apologize."
Yeah.
Don't apologize for crying. And
Yeah.
that was an interesting thing for me, because I was like, oh yeah, I guess I don't have to apologize for just having an emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's very dear to me, because as you're just talking, I'm like, yep, there it is. So the thing about grief, guys, is it will come on when you least expect it. Because my dad passed on the 21st. Okay. There's times that I'm going through my day and I'm like, wow, I haven't cried once today. And then I'll look at his picture, and it's all there, right? And just talking about this, it's right here. But guess what? This is what's true. Yeah, my face is going to contort, and I might have some snot that's coming out my nose, and I might, be contorted in my face and I might, get choked up. But that's what tears are. That's what grieving is. And that's what we're, as human beings, it's vital that we embrace this. Okay. This is a big part of my teaching is I am a spiritual being having a human experience. Humans cry, humans grieve, humans emote. That's who we are. So if I don't embrace this and love this part that feels deeply, then I'm missing out on a lot of who I am. And it's okay, because here's the thing. Okay. I've done a lot of workshops and I've done a lot of personal development in my life. And I remember time and time again where I'd be at a workshop and I'd be very, very moved by whatever was happening in my life and in the workshop, and I would just be wailing inside, right? And the facilitator would look at me and say, please just let it out. The participants need to see this. They need to see this because this is your strength. This is your superpower, Pam. And I'd be like, whoa, I'd be falling apart, right? Falling apart. Well, when I fall apart, that's where the miracle exists. That's where the juice is. That's where the insight is. I don't know how many times for you, Jesica, this has happened where you're feeling intensely, you're crying, you're grieving, you're emoting. And then all of a sudden an insight comes through and goes, oh my God, there it is. That answer to that question that I had 3 months ago, or that next step for the show will show up, or, that way through that problem shows up in the middle of that grieving.
And
I don't know if you've experienced that, but
I have. And don't you think, and as you said that, I just got some clarity around it, because that goes back to that ultimate surrender. Because when we are in that level of grief, when we are falling apart, we are at a level of surrender. And that's, we've let go of the how. And that's when these types of messages can come forward. And the thing that I realized is, it may have nothing to do with this in this moment, or even what you're grieving about.
Yeah.
But you've opened up some channels.
Yeah.
And connection.
Yeah.
And things start to flood in. And it may, and I always sometimes think it should be like really super clear, like just a voice giving me exact words and what it is. And I realize that's not really the case for some people. I think it is, but I realize that's not the case for me. So I have to let go of what expectation I have around how that communication or that spark of inspiration comes through. For me, it's come through in almost, it's more than an idea. It's almost like there's an action I have to take that I just literally can't not do. I mean, I'm going to burst at the seams if I don't do this right now.
Yep. Yeah.
Type of moment. And that's what that is. It's an open channel for things to come through. And you're right. It's happened in some of those moments where you're just grieving over something.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I want to share, thank you for that. And absolutely, that is one of the gifts of really allowing ourselves to fully immerse in the moment, right? It's really being 100% present in the moment with whatever's going on for each of us, right? So another thing about grieving that occurred to me is that an example is that, I've heard, years ago when, what was her name? I don't know. I don't remember her name, but the woman, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, that's who it was, who worked out, she was a psychotherapist or something, and she knew the stages of grief, right? And she taught it. And, there's like 5 or 6 or 7 levels or whatever of different ways that grief can show up. And they all happen in this world of grieving when we have a loss. And, it's like anger and bargaining and sadness and, a bunch of other things. And then ultimately it's surrender, right? And then we move on, and acceptance. Well, I equated that to, oh, okay, so I've lost somebody, or I've lost a job, somebody's died, I've had a trauma, something. So those feelings, those stages of being equate to that particular thing. Well, they're going to show up in different ways. So I was talking to my husband, we were having interaction, and I found myself incredibly irritated. I was just irritated and fussy and, just grovelly and growly. And I went, why am I growly? What is going on? And, then I got angry and snippy and all of this. And it wasn't until that night, as I was going to sleep, I went, oh yeah, it's part of grief.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing, guys. My anger showed up because I was in this grieving process with my dad. Now, doesn't mean that I'm not going to be angry any other time in my life. But when I connect what is happening with certain events, then they kind of make more sense, right? I can kind of put some framework around that so that it makes sense of what I'm going through. And it really helps in my life, definitely, and it probably will help in your life when you can get some understanding about why things are happening, what's the purpose of it. Can I make sense of this thing that's going on? And I don't know about you, but the last 2 years in my life, it's been wacky. Life has been whack. And it's not just me, it's the world as a whole. And really, we could say that the world as a whole has been grieving.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you say that's true?
I absolutely feel that that's true. And I'm very sensitive and have very empathic. And I feel that sometimes my own outbursts of things feel like they're part mine and part the world.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to differentiate and then heal and work through that as well is interesting.
Yeah. So really, we've been working with a lot in the last 2 years. And I say that simply because it's been on a global scale. We have, as individuals, as humans, we have individual stuff that's happened. But when we look at it collectively as a human species, and we look at what's happened with COVID, it's pretty remarkable. The amount of stuff, of grief, of events that have been a rippling effect with the way that we have been living and performing in the world, right? And things kind of bounce off of each other, right? So one event happens and then something else happens and it bounces back to that thing. And it's been like this collision of energies and of systems and beliefs and, people, like groups of people warring with each other, not just the big war that's happening currently in Ukraine and Russia, but really warring with even our friends on social media because of what? Because this virus happened? Because it just was a catalyst for every other thing that is existing in the world right now. So we really need to look at that. Like, what is your life really about? Are you reacting to everything around you? Or are you taking responsibility for your own experience? Right? And we could continue this conversation, which I hope we do in another episode. And I'd love to have you back for that. But really, that's kind of what I'm sensitive to at the moment, is how much we are reacting to events in the world rather than taking a pause and looking at our own individual lives and asking, what part do we play in that? What do you think of that,
I
Jessica?
agree 100%. And that's something that I've really been looking at lately is how do we take responsibility for our own part in everything, in our own lives, and then in the world as a collective? And grief ties into that, because how am I taking responsibility for my own grief, the way I grieve, and then how am I taking responsibility for the role that I play in these other people's lives that are directly connected to me? How are we as a mini collective supporting each other and honoring each other and each other's individual beliefs around grief, how we go about it? How do you do that? And then when you think about how that dynamic can get so complicated, just even in like a family dynamic, let's say, now look at that on the collective global level, how complicated that can be in any type of grief or loss or anything of the sort. And so when we can come back around and look inward and take responsibility for that, it's huge. Everything shifts. Everything shifts because we stop going like this and start going like this.
Yep.
And I guess not everybody's on video, pointing your finger out versus pointing your finger inward.
Yep.
And looking at how we can take personal responsibility for that. I think that is so huge and so important in every aspect of this process. Like your example with your conversation where you realized you were getting really irritated, that your realization of that to me was you taking responsibility for that and the awareness of that.
Yeah. Thank you for that acknowledgement. And really, guys, this we can really call this a two-parter, because I want to have Jessica back and continue this conversation. Maybe we can look at next month for that, or the following month. But we will revisit this particular conversation because it's really juicy, and I think it's important for us to look at this in an objective way, as well as really looking for some breakthroughs, because let's face it, life can get as dull as as we make it, or we can make it really juicy and exciting and empowering and an adventure in life. So in the last few minutes, let's talk about support and what that looks like. So as you have been working around all of the events of the last couple years and grieving in your own life and looking at how to get through life versus how to create your life as an empowering and enlightened individual, what does support look like for you?
It's exactly what you described in the beginning of the show, realizing you don't have to do this alone. And I look at it, there's people talk about a wellness wheel, and you really look at spiritual connection and support, whatever you believe in, really going inward for that type of universal support for your soul. And then looking at the people in your life. Are the people in your life that you're surrounding yourself with, are they people that there is an equal exchange of support and energy for what you're going through, for what they're going through? Or is it one-sided? Right? And so are those the people you need to have in your life? And so seeking out relationships and friendships and family dynamics that you can feel completely supported and surrounded by. And I don't know that you can do that without the first one, without that connection to spirit first.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I actually, one of the beauties of this grieving process that I am in now with my dad passing is that my family members and I are healing. We're healing our family, and it's a beautiful thing. And so I'm having conversations that I never thought were even possible with my family members. And one of the things that my mom and I talked about, she said, I don't know how people live without God in their lives. And I said, Mom, I don't either. I couldn't imagine my life without a spiritual component to it.
Mhm.
It would be so hard. Created a program last year. No, not last year, 2020. And the first week, we shot all these videos, and I hadn't introduced the spiritual component yet into this program. And it was so hard to do it because I was focused on getting the information out, but I wasn't focused on the connection with source yet. And so it was hard. It was a struggle. It was like heavy, you know? And I realized, oh, it's because it's the time of the year. It's 2020. We're in the middle of all of this gunk with COVID. Like everything was shut down. Like the world was mirroring to me what I was experiencing inside. And so then when we got to the second week of creating this program, all of a sudden I was talking about spirit, and I was talking about connection, and I was talking about all this stuff. And I was like, oh, the world's opening up. Look at that. That's awesome. And guess what? For you, the listener, that can happen for you too, when you take on your connection to source as your 100% responsibility and commitment to your life. So we just have a few minutes left. What are your last words, Jesica, before we end, that you think is important for the audience to hear?
Our connection, like you've said, is important. And I strongly feel like it doesn't matter what kind of connection it is. It doesn't matter what you call it. It doesn't matter what religion or what spiritual belief. Having some kind of faith in something, I'm like you, I can't imagine my life without it. And being able to give yourself permission to explore that and find what works for you can ripple effect into healing from grief. It can ripple effect into so much self-awareness and understanding, and it can ripple effect into so much compassion for other people, and knowing that we're all living this human experience at different phases of our evolution and understanding, and we are all connected at a core level. And if we can remember that, we will come together as a planet, as a collective, and heal the world. And that is the type of healing I know the world needs right now, and the type of message the world needs right now.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for that. So it occurs to me that I think that as a whole, as humanity evolves and explores this whole experience of being human, that more and more people are realizing that they are not isolated and alone. And the more that we allow ourselves to connect, and it feels like doing that quickly before we end could be really helpful for some of you who are wondering, how do I know if I'm connected? So it really can be as simple, all of you, as I said, closing your eyes, which really helps to go within, and connecting to your breath. Your breath is the piece of you that allows you to know that you're alive. It is a living, breathing existence in and of itself. It's a system in and of itself. And when you breathe in, you feel that life force going right into your core. You didn't make that life force yourself. You didn't make your body yourself. So when you think about what was it that made this, That is connecting to that source, that divine power, that living, breathing divine power that created everything that exists on the planet. So simply ask, being that is outside of me, that made me, I want to feel you. I want to know you. I want to experience you right now. Give me some kind of sign that you hear me. Please help. And it simply is that easy, folks. It's that simple. Okay. It may seem like it shouldn't be that simple. It may seem to you like it's a foreign concept, but it really is the beginning. Start from where you are. Start from this moment in time. Allow yourself to give yourself the gift of connection. When we pray, we ask how. And then when we meditate, we hear the answer. So ask and receive. Can be that simple. Doesn't have to be difficult. It can be a fun exercise. If you want to know more, you can simply check into all of the different shows on the Transformation Talk Radio. The Empower Me show is here every week. You can come back to this channel, this station at noon Pacific every Thursday, and I will be here. And Jesica, you can find on the Possibility Perspective. When is your next show happening?
To be determined.
Oh, okay. So we have a commitment to happen through this conversation. But you can find Jesica on Transformation Talk Radio. Just go to Transformation Talk Radio and say, hey, how do I find Jesica Henderson? And she will pop up and be able to talk to you. So if you have any questions, folks, you can find me at the empowermeshow@gmail.com or brightbutterflyenterprises.com and ask any questions that you have, any assistance that you need for anything in your life, coaching or healing or, next steps or whatever you need. We are here for you, and I can't wait to connect again. Jesica, thank you so much for being here. I love you to pieces. And let's work out another time that we can get together on the Empower Me show and talk more about these juicy topics. Okay.
Thank you. I love it.
All right. So thank you very much, Jesica. Thank you, Justin, for being here. Jacob, sorry. I have Jacobs and Justins and everybody with the J. So all right. So we're going to sign off for now, guys, and we will talk next week, same time.
Thank you for listening to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright on Transformation Talk Radio. Tune in to learn more about living a fully empowered life. Remember that your life is up to you, and you can choose the spiritual path you are on. There is spiritual energy and wisdom in everything and everyone around you. Listen carefully for what the universe is trying to tell you in every moment. You are already being guided along your journey. Call upon your spirit guides anytime you need help with anything. Know that you are safe in every moment, even if it seems that you are not. For more information about Pam Bright, visit brightbutterflyenterprises.com or email theempowermeshow@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. We hope to see you next week.